It's Shedeur Sanders' time to shine as he gets the start for the Cleveland Browns. Week 1 of the preseason is here. We're breaking it down. Locked on NFL.
The new Locked on NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked on local experts on every major story. Get ready. Rowland is revving up. The new Locked on NFL starts now. Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome in to the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the Madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert, the Mastermind, Ross Jackson. On today's episode, we got to break down week 1 of the NFL preseason. Football is so back, folks, and there are a lot of players and a lot of teams that need to take the preseason serious, including 2 rookie quarterbacks who could and maybe potentially start week 1 in Cam Ward and Tyler Shuck. Also, we're going to talk about how the Bears and the Chiefs seem to have backward approaches to the preseason, but we're going to start with Shedeur Sanders getting his time to shine with the Cleveland Browns and why some folks are off the right path with how they're seeing this opportunity. Before we dive into it, though, I do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen and being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Ross, the quarterback situation is crazy in Cleveland. No better person to throw it to than my guy Spencer from Locked On Browns to give us the latest update.
Of course, everyone's going to let the Browns be the butt of the joke as they don't have a quarterback figured out right now. They got 4 of them. They're having this open competition for the starting job, and now they added a 5th into the mix because, hell, why not? But I can assure you, as much as people are laughing at the Browns for, like, of course, classic Browns, they don't know what they're doing, this is actually more of the opposite, where it's like, no, the Browns do know what they're doing. They're trying to be strategic and smart about these 2 injured quarterbacks that they have. They don't want to rush them back on the field. They want to give them time to heal up because, again, those soft tissue injuries – not something to mess with. You got to be careful and make sure those guys get fully back healthy.
Sure. Here's the thing, though. The motivation for Shedeur Sanders getting onto the field, I think, is incorrect for the Browns. But nonetheless, the best thing possible was happening, and that's him getting on the field. And again, I don't know how you could phrase that as a bad opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen some folks talk about how, Shedeur Sanders is going to be set up to fail. He's going into this preseason game as a starter and everything like that. And I'm like, no, damn that. Like, it's time for him to be able to go out there and show what it is that, Tyler, you and I have been talking about all offseason, that he is the guy for this job. Now, it's not, is it going to be beautiful in the first preseason game? Probably not. Let's be honest, right? But this is the beginning of building sort of the foundation for him, or laying the foundation for him to be able to build upon to eventually become this team's starting quarterback at some point in 2025.
Yeah, I think this is, again, I think the Browns might be falling backwards into success here.
Yeah,
Shedeur Sanders is the one who they should be going to anyway. Like, I think it would not be insane just to start him and plan for him to be your starter out of the gate. I'm sorry, we could talk about whether Sanders should have gone earlier or what his talent level is for where he should be drafted, but it's hard to find anybody out there with Dylan Gabriel rated as a better quarterback coming out of the draft than Shedeur Sanders. So it's funny that somehow, some way, Sanders has found his way out onto the field for the Browns, when that should be the case anyway. And once again, the Browns are like dumb enough to where good things happen to him.
Right. I mean, look, this is the guy that was supposed to be drafted by the Cleveland Browns at pick number 2 overall. Just because they got him in the 5th round, all of a sudden now he's not that guy anymore. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me, right? Like, he still ended up exactly with the team that everyone expected he was going to end up with. But it ended up happening in sort of this roundabout, very weird situation that we've talked about a bunch. But nonetheless, he's there. So what? Now, because he fell inexplicably to the 5th round, he's less likely to, or less talented, or less likely to become or be the best quarterback in that room as he was when everyone was projecting him at number 2 overall. Make it make sense, Tyler. This is a great opportunity for Shedeur Sanders. He should be excited. And in my opinion, Browns fans should be excited too.
Yeah, Browns fans are the big winner here because their team is trying to do stupid stuff, and it just so happened that the way things played out with the injuries to other quarterbacks, they have to do the smart thing. They're forced to do this. I mean, the football gods are dragging the Cleveland Browns kicking and screaming to being a competent team. Like, they're just trying, like, please, the football gods are driving, and the Browns are the kid in the back seat. Will you be normal? No, you will not. So, but I'm excited either way to see Shedeur Sanders, and I agree with you. I think anybody trying to color this as a bad opportunity or set up for getting any opportunity to play second team O-line, whatever. This is a good thing for Sanders, and ultimately I think it's a good thing for the Browns, whether they like it or not. But another team that has a very, very interesting quarterback situation is the Minnesota Vikings. They take on the Houston Texans in week 1 of the preseason, and all eyes will be on J.J. McCarthy, who has made improvements in training camp, according to Locked On Vikings.
I'm going to be honest, like a lot of the individual passing drills, he looked really crisp, good mechanics. He's still got a little bit of that leg swing that I know we've talked about before, but it's much more under control. And that was one of the big things for me when it came to his deep ball coming out, because you knew he had the arm strength. You knew he had a whip, but the ball just would not carry the way you wanted it to when he threw really deep. I think that's been somewhat fixed. And to me, that was a really positive sign, because when he was throwing those deep balls, it's not dying on him 5 yards short. It's carrying the distance that you really wanted to.
Kevin O'Connell is the type of coach who wants to go downfield, and Sam Darnold had the arm to do it. Sam Darnold had his faults, some turnover throws, some things like that, but he had the arm strength to get it down the field. I'm really going to have my eye on J.J. McCarthy. Now, it's not going to be exactly like this in the preseason, but Jordan Addison just got the 3-game suspension. Justin Jefferson's already dealing with a hamstring issue. T.J. Hawkinson's a little banged up in camp. They added a couple new pieces on the O-line who we'll see how that works out. In theory, it should work with the guys they've taken from the Colts interior offensive line, but we don't know. I think that if things don't go good early in the season, Minnesota fans and even guys in that locker room might have a real meltdown knowing that they let Sam Darnold leave for absolutely nothing. J.J. McCarthy is a guy who's going to be overanalyzed for sure, but he deserves some analysis and some extra attention with the situation the Minnesota Vikings are in. So J.J. McCarthy, I think that's a game, them against the Houston Texans. With the Texans, I know it's not going to be all their stars, but they have a really good defensive scheme under DeMeco Ryans. I'm going to be very curious to see how J.J. McCarthy plays, and I think he needs 2 or 3 series out there. They can't, not give this double negative there, making Ross twitch a little bit as a pure writer. But they have to make sure they take the preseason serious with J.J. McCarthy, because it's going to be tough early on.
Yeah, like I wouldn't be surprised if we see J.J. McCarthy at some point in maybe all 3 preseason games, or certainly two of the 3 at the very least. Obviously, you don't want to put him out there when you've got the third preseason game is always tricky, because you got a lot of those kind of third string guys that are really trying to put everything on tape. They're letting everything fly. They're playing maybe a little bit more recklessly than they typically would, because they're trying to make the big play.
They're trying
to get a job. Yeah, 100%. Like, that's the thing. They're trying to change everything around them, which makes perfect sense. So let those guys do that, but maybe don't put your quarterback investment in the way there. But in the first 2 preseason games, give him every opportunity, because as you highlighted with the injuries, as well as, different varying ability or availability rather of the pass catchers, the guys that JJ McCarthy is going to be playing with over the course of these, or alongside over the course of these preseason games, probably going to be some of the guys he's going to have to rely upon as the season begins. So you might as well get that on-field, under the lights chemistry while you can up against that, a version of that Houston Texans defense.
Yeah, 100%. And I like the idea of going against tougher defensive schemes early in the season with joint practices and preseason games and things like that. I think that's really, really smart. And if McCarthy can, just control, look like he belongs against the Texans defense, I think that's a good sign going forward. But I'll tell you, Ross, 2 games ain't good enough for me. I would be criticizing Kevin Now, Kevin O'Connell knows more about quarterbacks than, I do, obviously. I'll give him that right there. But I'm just saying, I wouldn't be overconfident. The bullets are going to start flying in September, and I think McCarthy has a long way to go after missing his basically entire rookie year. But with that being said, we need to talk about some quarterbacks who aren't rookies, but 2 teams who are handling the preseason in different ways, it appears, and I don't quite understand it. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can, whether you're growing your savings or you're planning a big purchase. Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, spending, all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. For me, I was kind of surprised at how much I was spending on online shopping until I got Monarch. Now I can budget smarter. Also, I've been getting into investing. Having all of my investments, my accounts, my spending in one place makes managing my money and building that wealth so much easier. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Today's episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, me, maybe Ross, are playing on Yahoo Fantasy. They have different modes and different types of fantasy, including the guillotine leagues. And look, they've been doing it for 28 years, and to celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. And to kick it off, they dropped their, as I just said, new Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're into the classics, you can still play head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, Ross, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. Talking about some games in the preseason, but we do have some injury notes in the NFL that we need to get to before we get back to the games. Rashawn Slater, one of the best left tackles in the NFL, leaves practice with an apparent serious left leg injury on Thursday. Ross, we got games to talk about, but that's a significant blow for the Chargers, and I got to tell you, Ross, I feel responsible. The madman's curse. Literally, just 2 or 3 weeks ago, I declared that the Los Angeles Chargers would win the AFC West. Since that point, Mike Williams has retired. They've had injuries. Now Rashawn Slater with a potential serious injury. I apologize to Chargers fans out there everywhere, all right? I did it too early, and now here we are.
Yeah, I think this is the main takeaway here is that you're now the enemy of Los Angeles. I'm here in Los Angeles right now. I can hear the screams for you. They're already gathering.
Rallying.
I hear the pitchforks are out, everything, man. That's rough, dude. Yeah, no, that's a really, really big hit for the Chargers, really big hit for Justin Herbert. Now they did go out and they signed Mekhi Becton. Is there something that you can do there and returning him maybe to a different position to help out, whatever that might be? But look, that's a big hit for Los Angeles, who has put a lot of investment into their team this offseason, and now we're going to have to hope that they're going to be able to maximize it, especially in the passing game.
Yeah, and the passing game is the one that's taken all the hits when they have all these things happen to them. It's like they were already looking at a passing game that had some potential, but it wasn't expected to be gangbusters out of the gates or anything. I would imagine that Joe Alt probably slides back to his natural left tackle position that he played in college. They love Trey Pipkins there. The fans don't, but they've kept him around for a while. Maybe they do something more creative. They have time to do something in a transaction way if they want to, but no matter how you want to slice it, you know, the numbers have gotten smaller at wide receiver. They do bring in Keenan Allen, though. That should obviously help a little bit, but is Keenan Allen who he once was? That's a conversation. He should help some, but at the end of the day, I do think the passing offense is a big question mark for the Chargers now, and this only makes things worse. And this is a monster blow for one of the best offensive linemen in the entire NFL. But getting back to the games ahead, do want to talk about a team that's doing things in a strange way, in my opinion, and it's the Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams, I don't think has done anything in his rookie year to earn not playing significant snaps in the preseason. Ben Johnson comes in with a new system. They have some new pieces and things like that. But Lauren was on the show earlier this week saying he wasn't certain whether the Bears were going to play most of their starters, and he gives us an update on the Bears from Locked On Bears.
This is a younger roster that is learning Ben Johnson's offense on one side of the ball and learning Dennis Allen's defense on the other side of the ball. And like even the most experienced veteran players on the roster could benefit from some added opportunities to be out on the field working extra reps. Like every rep you get in a preseason game is just bonus opportunity. It's an extra practice. And it feels like this Bears team could use as many practices and reps and opportunities as they possibly could to get as comfortable as they can with the system and with what the coaches are going to ask them of, but then also just like getting more comfortable with each other, whether that's Caleb Williams building connections with rookies like Colston Loveland or Luther Burden, or a free agent like Olamide Zaccheaus at receiver, or even just like new teammates, right? This interior of the Bears offensive line is brand new with Joe Tooney and Drew Dahlman and Jonah Jackson. And maybe Ozzie Trapillo ends up being your starting left tackle, and you've got 4 new starters on your offensive line. Like it feels like every opportunity you can give them to work together, even just a little bit more, adds up.
Yes. Why would the Bears not play their starters in the preseason if they're healthy and ready to go? Right. It's just absolutely insane. It's crazy to me. Like, I guess the only thing is you have to agree with that, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, everything down from the new systems to an entire almost 4 new starters on the offensive line, like that's enough, period. Stop there. But then you go into new system on the offensive side, new system on the defensive side. Like there's a lot of these things. And then you add in, now look, I'm going to caveat this. I understand that only the worst types of, reps and things like that ever hit social media from training camp. But let's not pretend like Caleb Williams has looked like an all-star out there all throughout training camp either. And for that matter, let's not pretend like he's looked like an all-pro that he looked that way during his rookie season either. I think you, like you mentioned, have to look at Caleb Williams as somebody that still needs those preseason reps. I don't know that he's earned the right to not take those reps yet. And then you calculate and add in everything else that Lauren just described. And I cannot stress enough, the 4 new starters on the offensive line, if they go that route, you should be playing all of them as you can when it comes to these preseason matchups.
100%. And I mean, Ben Johnson is even talked about, Caleb Williams, he could play a little bit better. It's been a little frustrated at times. I mean, my barber was bringing up to me, did you see what the Bears coach said about Caleb Williams? I guess maybe it's all a game. Maybe it's all a misdirection, but that just seems like an insane thing, especially when you flip it to the other side and the Kansas City Chiefs plan to play Patrick Mahomes for like the first quarter. The Chiefs are not messing around, and you would think if the Chiefs, Andy Reid, all the success they've had are doing it a certain way, then maybe a team like the Bears might want to follow that example. But what I really want to see when we look at Pat Mahomes, if he's going to play, is how that deep ball comes back, because it's been missing from Mahomes, but apparently it's been pretty solid in camp, according to Locked On Chiefs.
The deep ball is back in Kansas City, and Mahomes continues to push the ball down the field. Mahomes maximizing targets, hitting a lot of different guys, and continuing to push the ball down the field. This is a theme of training camp this year, and we see it in just about every segment of training camp, whether it's 7-on-7 or actual team drills. He is continually pushing the ball down the field.
That's what we need to see change from the Chiefs. Their explosiveness as an offense has dipped in the last couple of years, even while winning. You need Patrick Mahomes to use that arm to create explosive plays. They've had some receiver injuries with Hollywood Brown being nicked up and things like that, but I want to see that back. So if Mahomes is out there, I want to see him do these things that people have been saying he's doing in training camp.
Yeah, you want that dynamic element back in this Kansas City Chiefs offense if you're Kansas City, right? I mean, there's certainly some pieces to where you could say, look, they didn't do that last year and they still made it to the Super Bowl. But you know what they didn't do, Tyler? They didn't win the Super Bowl. No, and not a bunch of that is on just a lack of the deep ball. But imagine how much, I mean, what we know is that you open up with the deep ball and then all of a sudden your run game benefits from that because the safeties start playing further off, the boxes lighten up, all these other things. Like, it just creates and allows you to be able to have a greater dynamic. You have to have the extremes in order for everything in the middle to be effective. You don't have to have the extremes being, 90% of your offense, but it's got to be present. And the threat has to be present, right? And so if you're able to keep that in this offense, which is what this Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes offense was so well known for, and you still got Xavier Worthy, you still have these other pieces that you can utilize. Yeah, I think you absolutely need that element back if you're the Kansas City Chiefs.
And not only is it less strain on the rest of the offense and open things up, but it's less strain on the defense as well, which is kind of been carrying him.
Right.
Patrick Mahomes can do it. We can see that he can do it. He can do it. But you don't want Patrick Mahomes to be a game manager. You want him to be a lightning rod. So getting back to that level would be a good sign for the Kansas City Chiefs. But Patrick Mahomes is on one side of the quarterback conversation. If you go to the other side, you'll find two rookies in Cam Ward and Tyler Shough, who we know that Cam Ward's going to start. Tyler Shough, maybe not so much, but hey, sounds like a good opportunity to get an update on those quarterbacks and what we should see from them in the preseason. Do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. Ross is out there grinding at training camp all day long. I'm honestly probably on the course grinding at golf. But either way, we both need our 5 Hour energy shot to power through. I know that training camp is a lot of good time, but golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. And the grape, ginger, lime flavor gives you the best of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5. hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. The offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5 Hour energy shots today. All right, Ross, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. Thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On Bets. Betting experts Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers have daily MLB locks. And can't miss football futures. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Well, Ross, we got two young quarterbacks, two rookies here that I can't wait to see in the preseason, with Cam Ward from being on the outside looking in, I suppose, not at Titans training camp every day. Ross is never on the outside looking in, though, our NFL insider here at Locked On. But what are you hoping to see from Cam Ward, or what are your expectations for the rookie quarterback as he will play this weekend against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Yeah, I mean, look, confidence, aggression, consistency. Those are the things. And sometimes that consistency has to come after making a bad play. Sometimes that consistency has to come from making a good play. Never swinging one way too far or another in terms of your reaction to a moment is key for a quarterback. You have a good play, don't rest on those laurels, go and make the next one. You have a bad play, don't focus on it, go and make the next one. And that's kind of the stuff that you just want to see when it comes to Cam Ward. Again, the least talked about first overall selection I've ever seen in the NFL draft, especially as a quarterback, finally gets his opportunity to go out there, separate himself from the other conversations around other rookie quarterbacks, and pinpoint the conversation on him. And if he can do those three things, then I think that that's going to set him up to maybe start to build and kind of create that confidence as he goes into the 2025 season as the absolute starter for that Tennessee Titans team.
I got to tell you, Ross, I think so many people have said he's the least talked about number one overall pick of all time that it's not true anymore. It's not even true anymore.
That's fair. That's fair.
You know what I mean? Like we've gotten to that point where I think we've crossed a threshold where that can't be true anymore with how many people say that. But yeah, you're right. And coming off of Will Levis, who, I liked Will Levis's personality. It's fiery like me, the madman, you know what I mean? He's up in your face. He's screaming on the sidelines at Miami. But I think you're right. I don't think you necessarily always want that from your quarterback. I think that's more of a middle linebacker or, a left tackle type of mentality that you would have. I think your quarterback does need to be even-keeled, and that's one of Cam Ward's strengths. I think he's never too up or down, and Nick Holes, Titans offensive coordinator, has talked about that in a recent interview, talking about how even in the quarterback room, when he's looking at his good plays or his bad plays on film of practice, he's never too up or down about any of them. So I think that sort of even-keeled nature, that always calm, cool, and collected nature of Cam Ward should be a breath of fresh air for the Titans. But I do think that Cam Ward needs to play. I think he needs to play in basically all 3 games. I think the Titans have a very tough start to the season, going to Denver and then playing the Rams. Like, that is an incredibly difficult stretch to start, and it's going to really test a rookie quarterback. And Brian Callahan, what's he done to prove that he's a good coach in the NFL? There should be major questions there. I think the Titans need the work. I think Cam Ward needs to play, and at this point, I think there's a good chance he will get a good amount of work in the preseason. But on the New Orleans side of things, for me, I want to see the things from Tyler Shuck that made him exciting to people in the draft. I want to see him make all the throws. I want to see him have a little bit better moving around than maybe people think. I want to see him stay healthy as well. So I want to see, I don't even care about the consistency with Tyler Shuck. I want to see the flashes that make him someone to be excited about. Let's even see those flashes of that, and then stay healthy is the other big one with a guy who's had injuries. That's all I'm really looking for. Is that fair expectations? And do you think he still has a chance to start with what it seems like Spencer Rattler kind of holding on to the lead spot?
Yeah, look, I'll say first, I think that the criteria for you makes a lot of sense. I have one adjustment that I'll tell you in a moment, or one additional piece that I'll say in a moment. But when it comes to the quarterback competition, I think right now Spencer Rattler has a really firm grasp on QB1. But as we know, there's always the unknown when it comes to a new coaching staff coming in and making their selection. I don't want to say that Tyler Shuck gets the job without earning it. If he gets the job, it's because he earned it. And these preseason games could provide him the opportunity to do it. But head coach Kellen Moore in New Orleans has said that they're already close to naming or making the decision about who their starting quarterback is going to be. And right now, if you're already close to making that assessment or making that determination, then the assessment probably lends itself towards Spencer Rattler, because he has clearly been the stronger, most decisive, most aggressive, and most consistent player when it comes to that quarterback position. And he should be, right? Six games of NFL starting experience, 7 appearances last year, all that. So that's where I would put the quarterback battle. The one extra thing that I'll add on what we want to see from Tyler Shuck, I think, is going to be just, yes, you want to see the flashes, but he's got to kind of raise the bar for himself in terms of what the opposite of those flashes are. Because I think that what we're seeing from Tyler Shuck in camp so far is either really, really phenomenal plays or some of those kind of throws, you know what I mean? And that's a lot of what was on his tape coming out of college as well. So he's maintained a little bit too much consistency there. You'd like to see sort of that bar raised in terms of what the opposite of those really high level throws that he can make are. Because right now he's got a little bit of, I would almost compare it to Jameis Winston, right? Jameis Winston had those throws that made you go, oh my goodness, this guy's the number 1 overall pick, blah, 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 blah. But then he also had those plays on the opposite side that kind of made you, defeat Cobra for the fans and all these other things, And so I think he's got to close that gap a little bit.
Ross, I think the honest thing here is my expectation of Tyler Shuck, like overall his talent level. I wasn't high on him coming out of the draft. So where you're like, I guess I'm expecting some of those bad plays and some of those crazy things. So if he comes out and he makes those plays without the good flashes, then I think it's like, that's not good. But I want to see him in the preseason still have those flash plays with the understanding that he'll probably make some of those plays, and maybe you can get that out after the year. But I want to see the good flashes because I'm not very high on him. So I'm like, if he at least shows some flashes, maybe he'll win me over a little bit more. So that's really where I'm at on that. But preseason is here. The real week 1, get out of here with that Hall of Fame game is week 1. I can already hear the haters. Week 1 is here. I know it's just preseason, folks, but look, we spend all draft season. We spend all draft season, all season breaking down college players. And most of the guys that are going to be out on those fields this week are guys that we spent months discussing leading up to the draft. Don't lose the love in your heart. This is great. Watch these guys. Watch them develop. You never know who's going to be the next star, who's going to take a step forward, how these guys are going to change from year to year. They're the same players that you loved scouting during the college process. Enjoy watching them out there play. Football is back. That's all I have to say about that. But with that being said, that is going to do it for today's edition of Locked On NFL. I am your host, the Madman Tyler Rowland, for my co-host, the Mastermind Ross Jackson. As we tell you every episode, thanks for tuning in and stay safe out there.